challenging because when I think back on my childhood, I remember all those moments, elementary school, middle school, high school, those iconic, just activities and games and fun things, after school sports that really helped shape me into who I am and helped boost my self-esteem in those moments. But I really think that, especially in today's world, we all should do a better job of having open conversations with our fellow students and our siblings, people in our household. And, it's not just for the people that look like they're physically struggling on the outside, because for me, when I was younger, I was one of those people where, looking on the outside, people would not expect that I was struggling so badly on the inside. And I think that's something else is, mental health has such a stigma. And for everyone listening to, if you've ever felt just not good enough or anxious or just like your life will never get better and all those kind of, worst case scenario thoughts or beliefs about yourself, I mean, first and foremost, I just want to say you are not the only person that has ever felt that way. And I know it can sound cheesy to say and like you don't want to hear it, or you're just like, oh, this girl, like, she's accomplished this. I'm sure she's just saying this, but it's genuine. For so long, and I'm 25, and just now at 25, I have actually, and this is real, I have actually started to love myself and love my body. And at 25, this is just now happening. So it took many years of going through ups and downs and relationships and going into therapy, multiple things that kind of just helped me along this journey, which is a lifelong journey too. I really genuinely believe that throughout our whole entire life, we have the opportunity every day to choose again, meaning, despite getting stuck in traffic or getting a bad grade on a test, we all have the ability to choose to love ourselves, to choose to, go exercise or read a book or any healthy habit. We always have that power throughout the day to kind of flip it around and to be more positive and to, look on the bright side of things. So for me, it's just really, really, really important
Struggling with my social life and my eating habits.
Really, reiterate that whenever I can. So I'm going to go into detail a little more about specifically my journey in middle school. So I remember vividly the first day of sixth grade. I remember it like it was yesterday. I remember the night before, or actually 2 weeks before, leading up to it. I remember, picking out my outfit at Target with my mom. And I was so specific. I was like, Mom, all the cool girls wear this. I'm just seeing on their, MySpace was a really big thing when I was entering sixth grade. And, all the girls are posting it. I have to get this certain outfit. I want to feel cool. I want to feel seen and heard. And I want to be liked by everyone. And so for me, I took it so seriously. The night before, I remember laying out my outfit, just, trying it on 6 different times and being like, no, it's too much. I don't look cute enough. I don't look this enough. And just all these things. And then, here comes the first day of school. It felt like Christmas morning. I don't think I slept 1 second the night before. And for me, growing up, my home where I lived, my childhood house, was only 500 feet away from my middle school. And so I walked there and I was so nervous. My hands were like shaking. And I remember the first day of sixth grade. And I remember, going into it thinking, oh, elementary school, I had a core group of friends, I'm just going to find them at lunch. It's going to be easy. And then I remember, it hit lunch break and already, the nervousness, the butterflies of the first day of school had kind of worn off and I was getting used to it. The new classes, the new teachers. For those of you, if you are in sixth grade, maybe you have lockers, maybe you don't. I personally didn't have that until I reached high school. But, for me, it's crazy because I vividly remember trying to find this friend group at lunch and, kids are running around, there's people in the cafeteria and I have my backpack on and I'm like, okay, where is this friend group? Where are they? Where are they? And I couldn't find them. And I remember vividly, getting a sinking knot in my stomach. And I was like, oh my gosh, my friend group has changed. And I mean, I felt like it hit me, like a train. And I was like, wait, who am I going to sit with? And all these worries. And I'm like, where are my friends from 5th grade? And, honestly, that was such a powerful teaching moment looking back, because I had, thought this is what's going to happen and it's going to be this way. But that was so outside my comfort zone. It was so unexpected. So for me to, find a random girl that I had this new science class with and ask her if I can sit with her and her friends, it forced me out of my comfort zone. And I was so worried about change. I think with anyone suffering from anxiety or any forms of depression, you can often feel like you're so afraid of just change and what could happen and, all these things. And so I took that chance. I sat with this new group of girls, and even in the moment, I look back at my 11-year-old self and I'm like, my hat is off to her, because it's scary and I had to be brave. And, I couldn't really call my mom and just say, pick me up, I want to go home. So I think that's a huge moment that shaped me. And then for me personally, the rest of middle school was a lot easier as I just consistently pushed myself outside my comfort zone, and I met new people, I tried new things. And I really, I just embraced what was happening in my reality, rather than, trying to stay in this friend group and trying to force things from the past. And so, once 8th grade was coming to a close, I noticed that that same feeling, just like when 6th grade was starting, that same feeling was popping up of, oh, high school's about to start, a new chapter, change. And my body's like, I felt like a dog when you're trying to take a dog to get a bath and they're like, all paws are on the ground and they're like, no, no, no. I felt that same feeling come up. And so I really had to actively practice being mindful and just feeling the feelings, but still, enjoying it and pushing myself anyways, despite feeling the fear and the worry, because I knew that the fear that I was feeling, it was there, it was present, but I still also wanted to make myself proud. And I knew that by pushing myself outside my comfort zone, it's really, what was best for me, and it's what I needed, and it wasn't going to hurt me or anything else. But, I do remember my freshman year of high school, I had my first panic attack ever. And even as a child, always being worried and fearful, I just remember when I was 14, 2 weeks into my freshman year, I was sitting in my English class, and my teacher is talking about the book, The Odyssey. It's about Greek mythology. And I remember vividly, still at 25, I remember the smell of the classroom, how hot it was, and the air conditioning wasn't working that day. And just sitting in, the desk, and we had a little section under, we could put our binders and my backpack and everything. And I remember my teacher was going on and, just talking. And I was kind of, daydreaming a little bit, staring out the window. And I was kind of paying attention, but also thinking about, I'm hungry. What am I going to have for lunch? I hope my mom packed some cookies. That's where my mind was. And I remember, just my mind was kind of drifting and drifting. And then I all of a sudden just felt my heart rate accelerate. And I'm like, this is odd. And my palms started getting really sweaty and kind of clammy. And I'm like, I'm like, okay. And I kind of was looking around, and I'm like, does anyone else, notice what's going on? Like, this is just weird. Is this just me? And it was hot in the classroom. So I'm like, oh, maybe I'm just kind of hot. I can take off my sweater. So I did. That felt a little bit better. And then 1 minute goes by, the same feeling comes up, the sweaty, clammy palms, the fast heart rate. And I, started getting worried. And the whole entire thing, also genuinely, it felt like it was lasting an eternity, like an hour, but in retrospect, it was only probably about 3 minutes long, but it truly felt like, such a long, the fast heart rate, the sweaty palms, my stomach was, when you're on a roller coaster, just like in knots. And I'm like, oh my gosh, am I sick? Am I having the flu? And it kind of scared me. In my classroom, everything kind of started getting lightheaded and dizzy. And so I genuinely was like, I just need to get myself out of the classroom. I don't want to like pass out or faint in my English class. How embarrassing. There's so many cute guys or whatever it was. And so I raised my hand and my teacher looked at me and was like, yes, Megan. And I'm like, can I go to the bathroom really quick? And he's like, sure. He's talking about a book, but he said, sure, not a problem. And so I remember I just grabbed the hall pass. It was like a huge piece of wood with a bathroom key. I just darted to the women's bathroom and I run to the first stall. And then I just, sit in the bathroom stall. I literally just am sitting and I'm breathing. And I just notice my body is just feeling like it's on fire. And I'm like shaking. And I just will never forget, trying to kind of calm myself down. And I'm like, breathe, Megan, breathe, you're fine. And, eventually the episode, I didn't know it was a panic attack at the time. Eventually the episode sort of, faded away. And I was felt like I came back down to reality. And I just was looking around at the bathroom stall at the white tile. And I was like, what was that? It was so scary. I thought I was having a heart attack or something. And, here I am 14 years old, just like in a bathroom stall, just so scared. And I will never forget that moment. It really shaped me into who I am today because, there wasn't really a lot of formal education about mental health in my high school. And there wasn't a lot of, just healthy conversations or, people taking the time to have a mental health day or to have an assembly. There was a lot of assemblies about say no to drugs or, prepping for college or getting good grades and all that stuff. But I remember thinking, what was that? I mean, it wasn't normal, but I still didn't know what it was because there was no formal education. And so, after about 5 minutes, I didn't want to keep my teacher waiting. So I went back to my room, to the classroom, and I, just sat down. And I remember just literally staring at the clock, hoping the class would go by. I'm like, oh my gosh, can this class just be over? Can it be over? And then it eventually ended. And I went up to my teacher after and I said, can I talk with you really quick? And, I've always been a very good communicator, even at an early age. And so I remember looking at him and I tried to explain what I had experienced. And he was kind of confused, but I'll never forget the first words that came out of his mouth were, "You're really brave for telling me that." And he just gave me a look and he's like, "You're 14 years old and you're telling me that you just had a panic attack." And I'm like, just him saying the word panic attack, I was like, oh, so number one, what I just felt, it's real. It has a name. It's not, I didn't just make it up and it's not because I ate, maybe some like, oatmeal for breakfast or something that kind of upset my stomach. He validated in that moment that what I was feeling, it was real and it was normal. And that was so powerful for me because at 14, you're experiencing so many other things, peer pressure, body changes, trying to fit in your school, grades, college stress. There's so many things going through puberty, a lot of changes mentally, emotionally, and physically. But I will never forget my teacher validating that moment for me. And so after that, I felt really empowered. I felt like, because I opened up and because I wasn't afraid to ask for help, it really allowed me to know that, it's not a bad thing. There shouldn't be such a negative stigma attached to mental health and what it means to not be okay. Because the truth is, especially after, COVID-19 is still very present in today's reality, but especially after this past year and a half, what it has done and how it has affected students everywhere, as well as adults in the office. It's really, really, really important to continue the conversation and to know that if you find yourself having moments when you feel anxious or stressed, it is so important to honor that and to take care of yourself and to not push it down or to not say, oh, it's just a phase, or, I'll grow out of it, or I'll feel better tomorrow. It's really important to feel your feelings and to acknowledge them when they come up and to kind of work through it, because I feel like that trains your mind to have a healthy relationship and a positive reinforcement loop with feelings, whether it's you're feeling anxious, you're feeling worried, you're feeling stressed, you're feeling happy or sad, whatever emotion. I think it's important just for acknowledgement. And I also remember when I was in high school as a freshman, something that really helped me was the fact that my parents, despite me feeling anxious and it affected my grades and I felt worried in my eating habits and my social life, and everything was kind of, hanging on by a thread. Like, I felt personally so responsible for the fact that, if I don't get this together, or if I, let this anxiety take over my life, I'm going to have no friends. Like, all these other things are just going to go away, or it's going to affect my success as an adult. But back to what I was saying, I think that something that really helped was the fact that my parents, I sort of had to ask for help. I remember one night after dinner, I asked them to turn off the TV, and they said, Megan, what's wrong? And I just sort of laid it on out there for them, and they looked at each other and they said, same thing like my teacher, we're so proud of you and you are so brave. So that was also really helpful, is having parents and a sense of community. So whether you have a friend, or you are a teacher, a counselor, a nurse, or anyone with a sense of authority, or you have a community yourself, I think it is so important to take it upon yourself to really be that person in the group that sparks that open dialogue, because it can feel scary, but I promise you that so many people will benefit, and you are never the only person feeling a certain way. I think that is something also with mental health. You can honestly feel like you are the only person going through something, and I think that's what makes it so debilitating, is when you feel like no one else is understanding you, or that no one else has ever felt the way that you felt before. That sense of isolation and sort of just, you in like a corner by yourself. I think that's really what makes it so challenging, but that's just not the truth. That's, for me, my anxiety, the way that I felt it and the way that it manifested in my body when I was a teenager in high school, it constantly told me, you're not good enough. You'll never have it, you'll never be that girl that you want to be. You'll never, achieve your dreams. Like, my anxiety, I started recognizing when that negative voice would come up, and kind of acknowledging, it's not me. Like, that negative thought cycle, it's not me. It's just, this thing that like comes up. It's not an extension of me. And that's something that I learned in therapy, is, kind of labeling the anxiety and kind of separating yourself. Like, it's not really me, and I don't have anxiety. Anxiety is just something that comes up in my life from time to time. But so I also want to talk about when I started therapy and when I sort of, knew that I needed to get help. And so, like I was mentioning earlier, when I asked my English teacher freshman year of high school for help, when I also talked with my parents after dinner that night and sort of asked them for help, I also remember about 2.5 weeks after I talked with my parents, they had a very healthy and positive response, which was really nice. And I couldn't have, asked for a better situation, because I think when you are at that age, whether you are 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, however old, it can feel kind of scary to ask your parents for help, or to think that, something could be off. And so I really, knew in that moment that deep down, I wanted to feel better. And that's what it came down to, is I realized that I was barely functioning. And like I said, my grades were not doing good. I was getting D's and C's, and I was not performing at a really high level. Also my social life and just my eating habits. And I felt like I was, like a planet, like a moon. And I felt like my entire world was revolving around not me, but like my anxiety. And that was so frustrating for me because deep down, I knew that my anxiety wasn't really me, yet I felt like everything that I did was just revolving around it. And like I just was this, I had to like give up my power to it, and I had to like let it do its thing. And that was what was so frustrating for me. And so eventually, after talking with my parents, I truly had that moment where I knew I wanted to get help, and I knew I wanted to feel better. And so I think that is genuinely, kind of like stage, just the first step is knowing that you want to feel happier or healthier with anything in life. If you want to get in shape, if you want to get better grades, like whatever goal that you have and you want to do better and just, reach your potential, I think it's important to just acknowledge that it is possible. And if you want it, then you should go for it. And so for me, a goal of mine at that age was feeling better and feeling happier and healthier and more confident. And so the only way that I knew that was to ask for help and to tell other people how I was feeling, because bottling it all up and just, barely getting by was not helping. So my parents immediately put me into therapy. When they saw that I was struggling and that this anxiety it was sort of turning me into a person that I just didn't resonate with. It was sort of making me into like, a shell of a person. And so I really knew that I wanted to kind of be like my normal Megan self. And I wanted to get back to acting in the school plays and being in the homecoming rallies. And, that's always been who I am at my core, like always goofy and happy and glass half full. And, just I've always loved being on stage and performing in front of other people. And so I knew that I wanted to go on this journey and start the journey at a young age to get better, because I wanted to be successful as an adult. I didn't want to allow this to like take control and to hinder my potential. So I first started seeing a cognitive behavioral therapist, which is, fancy word for normal talk therapy. I had my first session, and then following that, I saw her about once a week for a year, and it was really impactful and it changed my life. And I still to this day am such an advocate for therapy. I also tried EFT tapping, which stands for emotional freedom technique. I also tried hypnotherapy, which is another form of therapy. I feel very grateful that I not only had parents that financially could help me and have me see these incredible therapists and doctors, but I feel grateful for my bravery, because that is what sort of started this entire thing, is me having the courage to ask for help, even when I didn't know what would happen. And I was worried that my friends would judge me and all these things. I really wanted to feel better. So for me, it's really important. And I think especially with, the virtual school, and right now we're almost in November, which is crazy, but for everyone going back to school, I think it's important to spread the message of being mindful. That's something that I wish was taught in my own school, is just the art of being mindful and being present in the moment. I think that can only help you. I also think there is such a power in having healthy morning routines as well as nighttime routines, and truly just making sure that you are hanging out with healthy people who are happy, who are supportive, because I really believe that your childhood and early teenage years really shape you into who you become. And the habits, so I'm talking about, like, we all love Netflix. We all raised our hand. I love Netflix. I watch it all the time. But, the daily habits and being mindful of, okay, example, I watch Netflix for an hour, my body kind of wants to go on a run outside. I think it's important to have that mind body awareness. So, when to turn off the Netflix and, to be like, manage your time, to be on a schedule and have that balance of, having fun and whatever your way of, just like hanging out with your friends or bonding with your family. If that is playing a board game or going out to a restaurant once a week, it's having the balance of, working hard, doing your schoolwork, but also, making sure you're taking care of yourself. There's a quote that I really love, and it says, like an airplane, if you guys have flown on a plane, that before they take off, the flight attendant always talks about oxygen masks, right? And you put yours on first before you help someone else. I think that's a really important quote. Just, keeping that in mind, because being a student, being a person, being a sister, a brother, a daughter, mother, friend, it's overwhelming. We all have so much going on in life, but when you take the time to remember, put your oxygen mask on first, really truly take the time to better your mind and your body, because it is important. And like I said, we're all getting used to this new school year. And so I think it's really, powerful to listen to your body, to take breaks when you need to, but to also, check up on people around you, to really make sure that your friends are okay, and to be that person. Because when I was a teenager, I always, like, wished that I was that girl in the friend group that was brave enough to, spark that conversation and to ask my friends. Like, I always just wished for that bravery and that courage. But now at 25, it's very full circle to speak in front of you all today, because it's like kind of a little, message to my younger self, because now I have become that brave, strong, courageous girl. And it matters to me to have these conversations, because now looking back, I know I wasn't the only person in my elementary school, middle school, high school that was struggling and did not love myself. And I compared my body, my life to everyone else all the time. And so it's really, 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 important for me. And, that's one thing I want to leave you all with today, before I finish up here, is just remember to fill up your cup first and to take care of your mind and your body. And the younger that you start healthy habits, it will get easier the rest of your life. And I will say that the biggest and most important investment you can make in your life is the one with yourself, taking care of your mind and your body. And yeah, with that being said, this has been amazing. And thank you all for listening to me. And I cannot wait for my breakout session. But once again, my name is Megan Gallagher, and I have loved chatting with you all today and inspiring you all. And I'm reading the chat room, but this has been amazing. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Megan. If everybody could give her some claps or snaps or what you got, if you want to drop one of the reactions on the chat.
Thank you.
I'm seeing a lot of folks dropping your chat, and I was one of them that, anxiety is real, and even as adults, we still have it. It still comes up, and we work through it.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Megan. It was great to hear from you. And everyone, thank you for being here and hanging in with us. We are about to transition into our breakout sessions, and Miss Susan is working on getting those set up for us. And just for all of the adults on the call who are going to be moving and shifting a little bit, we are going to only have 2 groups, with a middle school group and a high school group. And so we'll have